Today's lesson looks at the basics of comping in the time signature of 3/4. We'll go through the basics first. I'll break down some of the potential possible rhythms you could use in 3/4 and talk about important things like right hand and left hand considerations. So first off, let's make sure we know about the basic rhythms we can fit in a bar of 3/4. If we've got 3/4, it means we've got 3 beats in a bar, and each beat is worth a quarter note, and those bars, they've got to add up to 3, whether that's through notes or through rests. It's got to add up to 3. So just taking a B flat major 7 chord, here's the real basic ones that you can do. So without any rhythmic articulations or things, just that first rhythm, first bar, is just playing on the beat. 1, 2, 3. So like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Make sure you can do that. Do that to a metronome. And then bars 2, 3, and 4, on that example, we're just putting a rest. That funny symbol looks like a Z with a C written beneath it, is a 1 beat rest, a quarter note rest. So the second bar is going rest and then play on beats 2 and 3. So 1, 2, 3. The second one's putting the rest in the middle on beat 2. 1, 2, 3. And finally put the rest on beat 3. 1, 2, 3. And what we're doing here is making sure we're clear about different rhythms we can put in the bar and that we can feel them, we can read them, we can count them. I then do this to a metronome. Now the one I like to use, and this is not sponsored in any way, is just called Tempo. It's on Google and Apple. There's a free version, there's also a paid version. I use the free version, it's fine for my needs. I'm going to put, you can set it to 3/4. I like this because it's very visual. Notice it accents the first one of each bar. So then I try and play my example to that. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's the permutations with quarter notes and quarter note rests, 1 beat notes and rests. But obviously it's 3/4. We could have longer note values. We could have 3 beat notes or even 2 beat notes and combinations of all of the above. So my second example is 3 beat, 2 beat and 1 beat rhythms kind of combined. If you look at that first bar there, so it looks like the quarter note, but the black bit's hollowed out, it's clear, and then it's got a dot next to it. That is a 3 beat note, a dotted half note. So if you play one of those, it lasts for 3. So you'd go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, stop. In that second bar, we've got a combination of 2 notes. And if you look, it's like the previous note, but it hasn't got the dot. And that's a half note, and that's worth 2 beats. So that's going to be 1, 2, and then play on 3 with the quarter note. So 1, 2, 3. The next bar along, bar 3 on that line, has a 1 beat note. Is the other way that pattern could work, with the 1 beat note on beat 1 and the 2 beat note on beat 2. So that would be 1, 2, 3. Finally, we could have rests. So we could put a rest on 3. We could go 1, 2, rest, or 1, 2, 3. Now let me do that to the metronome for you. So it's on 60. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So there's some different options with some of those rhythms and rests. I didn't include the 2 beat rest. I mean, if you have a 2 beat rest in 3/4, you're not going to be not playing for 2/3 of the bar. Now at this point, if I was you, I'd be asking, okay, so that's the rhythms, but I'm not hearing things jump out at me that might sound good for a rhythm guitar. And you're right. So here's some that I would try based on those potential combinations. So the first one is the playing on the beat 1, 2, 3. Now, if I take the first 4 bars of Moon River, F, D minor 7, B flat major 7 to F over A. If I just play on the beat with no other articulation, it sounds a bit weird. Like, well, not weird, but I don't think it sounds as good as it could. Like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Sounds a bit boring. So what you could try is on beat 1, play the root note, and then on beats 2 and 3, play the remainder of the chord like this. Which is, I think, what you get on the original Audrey Hepburn version. So. That really indicates this 3/4, puts the emphasis on 1, you know, and that's what you've got to feel when you with a time signature. Beat 1 is the most important, you know, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, which is what that does. Also creates texture. That second bar there plays on beat 1 and 2, and you've got a 2 beat note on beat 2, so you don't play on 3, you just let the strum ring out. So like 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If I play all the chords. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Might work for a section, say, maybe not all the way through, but good to be able to do. That third bar, 2 beat note, then a 1 beat note. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I quite like that, and what to use. It really depends on the context and how it fits with the melody and other instruments, okay? But those are real basic ones to start with. So we want things to sound a little bit more interesting, and that's going to come from faster rhythms, dividing the beat up, not just playing on the beat. So we get some syncopation into our rhythms. So eighth notes are the next ones to try, which is half a beat. So if we're dividing each beat into half, we've got 3 beats, that means we can get 6 strums in a bar. Now that would be very, you know, just on a chord, it would be, you know, 1 and 2 and 3 and. Basic rule I have for rhythm guitar and for kind of picking is that if it's on the and, I'm going to do an up. I wouldn't say I'd stick to it like 100% of the time, but I'd say a fair amount of the time I do. So if I'm going 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and I'm going down, up, down, up, down, up. So that first bar there is that 1 and 2 and 3 and then the second bar, we don't have to have eighth notes on every beat. We can bring in some of the rhythms we had before. So let's have a 1 beat note and then 2 pairs of eighth notes, which would be 1, 2, and 3 and. You know, with that mean river, that's probably sound quite nice. Quite like that. And then let's just shift that quarter note, that 1 beat note, into the middle of the bar, and you'd have 1 and 2, 3 and. 1 and 2, 3 and. Again, this isn't necessarily a rhythm to use, it's just helping you understand rhythm in 3/4 and the possibilities. Shift it to the end of the bar, 1 and 2 and 3. So if I played that whole line, it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1 and 2, 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. So that's the eighth note, playing it, dividing the beat in 2. And eighth note rest can also be used, so taking out some of those eighth notes and having silence. And this is where I think things start to get more interesting. So here's some examples on the screen. So if we look at that first bar there, that's on where it says 1 above it, that's what an eighth note rest looks like, so a half beat rest. So if we didn't play on 1, but we came in on the and remember that and's quite good as ups, you'd go 1, 2, 3, 1, and 2, and 3, and that'd be up, down, up. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Second bar, resting on the 2 and then coming in on the and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and. What I do to do the silence, by the way, is just release the pressure from the wood but not the strings, and then it just stops the guitar ringing. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Yeah, that sort of way of doing it. Third bar along there, we're going to rest on 2 and have a 1 beat note to start with. So that'd be 1, 2 and 3 and. 1, 2 and 3 and. 1, 2 and 3 and. The fourth bar on that line, we're still going to rest on 2. We're going to have an eighth note on the and of 2 and then have a 1 beat note on 3, which would be 1, 2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3. Now a good test, see if you could play that whole line as 1. So that'd be 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3. There's other places we can put those rests. Look at these next 4 bars. So the first one, we're going to have rests on 2 and then the and of 3. 1, 2 and 3 and. Quite funky. 1, 2 and 3 and. Resting on 2, 1 and 2 and 3. Quite like that one. Resting on 2 and the and of 3 again, but having 2 eighth notes on beat 1. This is bar 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Finally the fourth bar. We haven't got much going on in this one, have we? 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. If I play that whole line, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. Those rhythm exercises are not going to help you immediately play good jazz comping in 3/4, right? But they are going to help you just get used to feeling where the beat is, how different it is to 4/4, counting it, getting used to the strumming and the reading of the rhythms, and most importantly, feeling them. Of those rhythms with the eighth notes, these are my ones that I actually use for comping. And again, I'll use the first 4 bars of Moon River. Let's do bar 1. So I'm just using 1 and 2 and 3, and then applying that same rhythm to each chord, the first 4 bars of Moon River. First bar, 1, 2, 3. Second bar there is 1 and 2 and 3 and, let's do that, 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. Third bar, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3 and. Finally the fourth bar, 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 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 3. Quite funky, that one. Maybe too funky for Moon River, but it could work with other tunes or different sections. So there's some examples to try and maybe apply to some standards in 3/4. The next one we're going to look at is dotted notes and ties. I know we've already had one dotted note, but the dotted quarter note presents something interesting in 3/4. So if you look at this example on the screen, that first bar, if you look, there's 2 notes. Now, what a dot does to a note, it adds half of its value again. If that very first note, if you took the dot away, it would be a quarter note, a 1-beat note. Add the dot, it adds half again. So if it's worth 1, we add half a beat to it. So it's 1.5 beats. So to fill up a bar of 3/4, we need 2 of them to make 3. So this creates quite a fun rhythm, because you then get 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and, you know, with Moon River that would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Creates quite a sort of sense of momentum, and it's this interesting thing about you've got 3 but you're dividing it by 2, which is quite cool. Creates a kind of interesting juxtaposition, I think. And that second bar, we're going to use a dotted quarter note on beat 1, but then just play on the and of 2, and then have a rest on beat 3, which would be 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3. And finally, the last bar we're going to look at today. Look at that there. You've got a tie, the little sideways bracket joining those 2 notes. What that means is the first note is played, and then you let it ring for the length of the next one too. So if you look at that first note, it's an 8th note, it's half a beat, and the note it's joined to is 1 beat. So you don't play both of them, you only play that note on the and of 1, and then let it ring out for beat 2, and then play, you know, an 8th note on beat 3. So it sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and. So with Moon River that would be 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 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 3. So practice points, where to take it from here. Play through those exercises, make sure you can do the different rhythms and observe the rests, and then, you know, the ones I've highlighted as ones I think work well for actual accompaniment in 3/4 rhythms to try. I think it's written as on the PDF. Those are the ones you know that I think are stylistically used and suit. But again, it depends on context as to which one would work, who you're playing with. You can have the funkier ones, the more syncopated ones with like rests on ands and things like that, or dotted notes. Probably going to work better in a bigger setting with pianists and drummers and things like that. If you're just playing in a duo or something like that, you might need the more basic, just to really keep that beat secure for the person soloing over it. Obviously you can do this either fingerstyle or with a plectrum. General rule, as we said, if it's on the and, use an up. You don't have to play all of the chord, and that is quite common to play like that, say, but it doesn't always have to be that way. The damping is a big part of it, so the releasing of the pressure, and that really punctuates it and makes rhythm sound punchy. So, you know, 1 and 2 and 3. So if I'm doing 1 and there, what I'm doing is I'm playing the bass note on 1 and then an up on the and with the remainder of the chord. That's a B flat major 7 chord, and then I release the pressure, so it's very punchy, you know. Otherwise it would be like, which would again sounds okay, but I prefer the more rhythmic version. Any questions, you let me know in the comments, and you know, the PDF is available from my website for free, so be sure to download that to help you practice. Jazz guitar lessons every Wednesday and Saturday. Please leave me a comment, please hit that like button. Until next time, you take care.